Hey folks, David Stewart here. Time to talk more Star Wars. Mandalorian Episode 3. This is the episode where I realized that The Mandalorian is like a cinematic video game. All the pieces came together. The Mandalorian turns in his fetch quest item, which was Baby Yoda, receives his payment, gets to forge a new set of armor. And we saw in the first episode, he got a new pauldron. And this one, he gets a couple other new armor pieces to go with his shiny helmet. And not just that, the second half of the episode, it turns into a cover-based shooter, more or less, like something out of, Gears of War or Spec Ops The Line or even Mass Effect, something like that. I really realized at this point that every episode kind of has this format that's like a piece of a video game. In the first episode, you have a big cover-based shooting boss fight at the end, where you are fighting all of these guys to get in and save Baby Yoda. End of episode 2, you have to fight a rhino boss. End of episode 3, you have to fight all the other bounty hunters in town to escape to your ship. It was kind of an interesting revelation, and it really feels like a video game in some parts. Somebody mentioned that the part where he attacks the crawler, it's just like Super Star Wars back on the SNES, the Super Nintendo, and he's kind of right. There's a lot of things in here that feel like video games. You gotta go, you even have a quest tracker, you have this fob. It points to the person you're supposed to go kill, just like you're playing Elder Scrolls, and you have that little compass quest marker. So you follow your quest marker over to the quest, you complete the quest, you bring it back, you get a new piece of armor as your reward. You ask for the next quest. In fact, in this episode, the Mandalorian's like, give me my next assignment. What's my next quest, boss? I don't know. It was just it was a moment. Let's talk a little bit about the story of episode 3 here. This is what I would consider the closure of a 3-act structure. So in a 3-act structure, you tend to have the closure of a 3-act structure is an event, a battle, usually. And of course, in this one, we get a battle in the case of all the bounty hunters coming to try to get the Mandalorian. But we also have a shift, an event that shifts the protagonist from the passive role to the active role. So the Mandalorian had been in the passive role up until this point. He had been reacting to things. He reacted to the Jawas taking his ship apart. He reacted to monsters attacking him. He reacted to people ambushing him. He's always in this reactive role until he gets to this third episode, and he turns in the Baby Yoda, has the new armor crafted, but then he really has second thoughts. And this is where we have all of these little pieces of this ultra cute Baby Yoda thing adding up to him making the decision to basically go back on what he did and go and save this baby. So it's all lined up there. It's basically save the cat. He saves the baby in the first episode from the droid. He kills the droid to save the baby. He defends the baby in the first scene of the second episode from some random guys that attack him. He is indebted to the baby because the baby wants to heal him in the second episode, and also because the baby saves him by using an incredible force power to levitate a living being. By the way, I don't know if you can actually levitate living beings with the force in the old canon. Whatever. If you could think of examples where that happened, let me know. I know you can choke someone, but obviously we'd never see Darth Vader throw Luke out of a window or anything with the force. Anyway, so you get that. He has some second thoughts because, gosh, that baby was so cute, even was sucking on some piece of his ship like a little baby would. And so he decides to go back and save the baby. That's going to be the shift from passive to active. That's really typical in a lot of 3-act structures, especially those that involve a hero's journey style of growth for the protagonist. So that's what we give the story. Now, is it a bad episode? There's lots of things I don't like about it. I like the music in this one. Not as much as the second episode. It starts to get on my nerves again. But there's a couple orchestral themes. Again, they're mostly repeated. I don't think it's great music. The firefight that is basically the second half of the episode is pretty decent if you're not looking at it like what it appears to be, which is like a replay of a cover-based shooter game. It's not bad. It's quite exciting. There's a moment where everybody gets, or the Mandalorian gets saved by all his Mandalorian friends who had just expressed dislike in him a few scenes earlier, come in to save him. and he escapes with the baby, right? So now from then on, we're going to be in the middle act, which is all about chaos. He's escaping the planet, but he doesn't know where he's going. So the next episode 4, which I haven't watched yet, it's all going to be about him escaping and trying to figure out what to do with this baby and what the point of the baby is. It's the middle act, which is all about chaos. So that's what I see in this as far as the story goes and as far as how it works. I will say that there is once again in this episode a very, very slow pacing in particular parts. The first half of the episode is a lot of superfluous stuff as far as how the story works. Just long scenes of him walking very stiffly through the town that we've seen before in the first episode, slowly walking down the stairs to where the boss Mandalorian is, having his armor forged once again. Some very kind of minimalist dialogue amongst the Mandalorians, a lot of expositional dialogue between him and the Empire. But for anybody who's a student of writing, you should have seen everything really get set up in the first 2 episodes to lead to that event in the 3rd episode. In this episode, we even have a point where he asks what they're going to do with the baby Yoda, and that should be your sign that he's going to change his mind, that he's going to go from just being a bounty hunter who's collecting it to actually, saving this innocent life and being a good guy. He's really been set up to be a good guy right from the very beginning. I hope you will agree with me on that, and this is where it pays off. So for you students of writing, that's what's going on with this one. Episode 3, I'm still not really a fan of this series. It's not that bad of an episode other than kind of the veil came off and I realized it was very just video gamey, including there's a side quest in the 2nd episode. You are always fetching something and getting a reward for it. You fetch the egg, you get your parts, you bring the baby Yoda, you get new armor. That was like a moment for me where I'm like, I'm really watching a video game. I'm watching the wrong kind of influence from video game writing. The kind of influence that is with the gameplay elements and not with any kind of dialogue or something like that. So it's interesting. Let me know what you think down below about these characters. What we didn't see was the baby Yoda use the Force in a lore-breaking way. We saw that the fobs work somehow. I have no idea how these fobs work, but they're able to just track people. I've never seen this technology before. It's kind of a weird addition into the lore, is to have these fobs, but whatever. Another thing is we have all the Mandalorians shooting around on rocket packs like Boba Fett, and we're like, why doesn't this main Mandalorian guy have a rocket pack? I don't know. Here's another little writing thing that I just remembered. There is, if you're not familiar with the technique called Chekhov's gun, there's a great example of it in this episode. When he's getting his armor crafted, she asks him, what should we do with the excess? We'll make a sigil for you because you killed this woolly rhino. And he's like, no, I had an enemy help me, so that's not cool. And she's like, okay, we'll make these dart things. I don't remember what they're called. But she turns them into these little flying missiles that get put into his arm. Chekhov's gun is you show a gun because you know the audience. You show a gun to the audience because you're going to use it. So they put it in there, and then, of course, he encounters a situation where he's surrounded by stormtroopers, and he just shoots all the missiles and kills them. So he uses the item. They give you an item, and then you use it. That's a lot like, I don't know, a lot of video games like World of Warcraft. Use this quest, shoot this flare in the air, and that'll bring some NPCs to help you. It'll call down an NPC to help you kill this giant. So there's that. Some other odd things, just random little things. I noticed that the stormtroopers are always wearing stormtrooper armor. It's like, wouldn't the Imperials in hiding not really care about wearing stormtrooper armor? It seems like an odd thing when you kind of get below the surface that they're all still wearing stormtrooper armor, even though they're kind of in hiding and they're wearing like dirty, tattered stormtrooper armor. Like, wouldn't you just wear clothes that would let you blend in with your community since the Empire is apparently in disarray and fallen? I don't know. Just another little thing that showed up to me. Let me know what you think about this episode down below. I think this is another one that you could probably cut quite a bit out of it if you were to re-edit this whole thing into a movie. We've kind of been talking about this with people. I think if you were to re-edit most of this into a movie, you cut most of the 2nd episode out completely, if not the entire thing, because it's really superfluous to your goal. All it does is really try to, really dwell up sympathy for this baby Yoda character. kind of don't need it. And then you could cut out a lot of the repetitious parts in this episode where it's like the Mandalorian kind of walking through halls and stuff like that. So that would be my my thoughts. Is again, it's just not as efficient as a movie. Kind of grading it by TV standards. It's okay. It's probably the best episode that they've done so far. But let me know what you think down below. Now, I do have a new book coming out. It is called Eyes in the Walls, and I hope you will take a look at it and consider pre-ordering it. Here's what the cover looks like. It's a psychological horror novel about a boy who they think is schizophrenic, but well, whether he actually is or not, you'll find out when you read it. It comes out on Friday the 13th, so please consider pre-ordering it. 99 cents. It's another one of these shorter books that I've been doing recently. I also have a much longer book that is available for purchase right now if you check the description box. The Fantasy Christmas Spectacular 2019. This is a giant book of all the things that I've done. Now, this may not look that thick, that big. It's the biggest possible size you can make in CreateSpace. It's an A4, so it's like a little bit bigger than 8.5 by 11, and it's really jam-packed. So if you want to buy all, not Lone Wolf and Cup, if you want to buy all of my books in one big place for $9.99 as an ebook or $20.19 for the 2019 paperback, you can buy the Fantasy Christmas Spectacular. It'll be gone in 2020. It's a limited time book. So if you want to get a deal on everything, you want to buy everything at once, this is your chance to do it. You can buy it as a paperback or as an ebook, and I would appreciate it if you would leave a review. If you've read any of the books, you could leave a review and maybe just mention the book that you read, and that'll help me out a lot. So thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time.